black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. You carry.
Hey, black guy. What about this, black guy? See these stats? You're black. Clearly. What do you think about this? I mean, this is a black thing, huh?
But this is not just a question of political calculation and Machiavellian reflection, brother. This is about the quest for truth and justice. You got to be real. You got to be authentic. I'm not listening to consultants who tell me to use this particular kind of language with this group and this kind of language with that group. That is the essence of managerial bourgeois politics.
Oh my God.
So
I just gotta pause it because it's amazing how Cornel West throws that back in his face. Like how Jimmy Dore is the one where it's like, listen to the consultants, like in his mind, like the consultants that he would listen to. Whereas like Cornel West is being authentically himself.
If you didn't know, Jimmy Dore, for the longest time, at the very top of his Twitter account, had a post that he pinned, and he has not changed that pin until today. I was very prompt to check if he actually had moved his pinned tweet. His initial pinned tweet was a post by Dr. Cornel West praising Jimmy Dore. Of course, it's one that always makes me cringe when I see it, but that was the pinned tweet that Jimmy Dore has. He has changed his pinned tweet. His pinned tweet is now a post criticizing Cornel West. Why have they suddenly gotten up in arms against each other? You're about to see. But I'm very happy this finally happened. It was long overdue.
Exactly. What was the level of corruption that took place during these years? Be able to see not just the text. We know the books are out there, but they have a truth commission so that we can see what voices were marginalized, what voices were pushed aside, and make sure it never happens again. I resonate with the spirit of what my green, and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through. 63% of them living paycheck to paycheck in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth. And yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black Caucus. But when I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind. It just
Hell fucking yes. If anything, they're life-saving. They've been incredible. Fucking, I have nothing but amazing things to say for fucking medical staff, especially after going through a recent operation myself to have my appendix removed. I have nothing but amazing things. Pay nurses more. Nurses are fucking life-saving people. And the very scientists who invented the vaccines, not Big Pharma who utilize taxpayer money to be able to get a copywriting product that they don't really want to share the recipe. Not that shit. I'm talking about the actual scientists who invented this life-saving vaccine that's actually pretty incredible, that gave a lot of our lives back. I know we didn't get rid of the pandemic. We kind of just turned it into an endemic, but still, that's amazing. For Jimmy Dore to obsess over this to this point, obviously, I think anyone well worth their fucking, you know, any quality caliber you want to credence that you got, any grit that you have accumulated as a politician should be able to see right through that as just a fucking anti-vax nonsense. Fucking, this is a useless cesspool of a political discussion. To actually entertain it on a regular basis, to be like, this is the biggest fucking political monstrosity of our era, that is bullshit nonsense and needs to be called out. And I'm so happy Cornel finally just fucking threw the cards on the table and was like, do you really think this is the biggest political like issue of our time? And, like, when we think about the suffering of thousands upon thousands of Palestinian children who die on a regular basis in this fucking apartheid state over there, when we think about working class Americans who work their asses off and can't fucking live, they're fucking going paycheck to paycheck, the affordability crisis, none of them are ever going to be able to afford homes in their lives, and they're playing by all the rules. These are not people who are running around fucking stealing stuff from fucking stores, and these are just working class people who can't make ends meet. That shit is way more important. Why the fuck are you still talking about vaccines, Jimmy? Why, if I look at your videos and we go through the top fucking 50 of them right now, why are they all vaccine hysteria? All nonsense, all lies, not stuff that actually helps working class Americans. It distracts people. It's all false consciousness. It pads your fucking mansion. It gets you tons and tons of clicks. Obviously, that shit is currency on the internet. Everyone loves conspiracy theories, but that shit doesn't actually help anybody. And I'm glad someone finally said it to his face. And just look immediately, like, you know, his ego could not handle a light criticism. That was a very friendly criticism, okay? Like, I think Cornel could have gone so much harder there, but fucking, he just laid it out. Just said it straight up. And you could just see it in his face. Jimmy Dore right now is just like.
Yeah, that's the kind of world we live in, brother.
Okay.
Maybe I spend,
Well, here it is. Black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. You carry.
Hey, black guy. What about this, black guy? See these stats? Black businesses, they went down under the COVID lockdowns, huh? You're black, clearly. What do you think about this? I mean, this is a black thing, huh?
Well, no, 70,000 workers in one state were fired because of vaccine mandates. When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about?
And then, ooh, wow, Jimmy, you can't help yourself, eh? I told you, once people start going transphobia, it poisons the mind. It really does. It's all consuming. I mean, like, you would not see everyday people willing to get fucking rep sheets, like going into fucking supermarkets, throwing full cans of beer. That's assault, by the way. Just grabbing a full ass can of beer and throwing it at strangers' heads. Yeah, you're gonna go to jail. You're getting a fucking. Why are you doing that? What's wrong with all of you? It's like, it's transphobia. Okay, well, now I understand a little bit more. People just. They lose their entire families over that shit, you know? Again, you have but to look at the Graham Linehans of the world. But yeah, that's such a fucking, this is so petty, callous, racist to fucking just immediately listen to a person, a very, very esteemed doctor, speaking to you, someone who considers you a friend, who's saying something in very, 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 I would say, friendly terms, and then all of a sudden be like, well, oh, okay, well, you think you care about black issues? What about this? Black businesses during the lockdowns, down 40%? Huh? Well, what about that? What the fuck? So you're okay with this?
About these workers. What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
Like, that's such a fucked up thing to say. Like, so you don't care about black-run businesses being shut down? Like, you'll only care about an issue if it happens to involve trans people? Does it have to be involving trans people for you, black person, to care about black issues? Like, what the fuck are you saying right now, Jimmy? Like, that, he just went full instant meltdown, you know? Like, that's how fragile this ego is, for him to immediately just be like, oh,
you're saying it's not important.
I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it was not the most fundamental issue in my lifetime the last 30 years.
Forced medical experiments? Forced medical experiments? The Tuskegee?
Where's the nuance?
Oh my God.
What does this have to do with the Tuskegee experiments? Honestly, Jimmy, please elaborate. Because, I mean, if you want to invoke that, which, again, weird as fuck for you to do that in the midst of this conversation, but if you want to invoke that, that would be grounds to justify, yay, there should be probably, most likely, an explanation as to why, I would assume, black Americans would be more hesitant to take a free vaccination program from the government based on the long, racist-ass history of the United States experimenting on black people. Like, okay, that would be an appropriate invocation of that. In the context of what you're talking about right now, you're just mentioning things that involve black people trying to get, again, a black person to care about it as if they don't care about these issues. Like, are you not black? Like, this is the extreme version of that Joe Biden thing, you know? It's funny that for a person who says he hates Joe Biden, he sure is doing the, hey, you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black, you know? Like, what the fuck, Jimmy?
So you missed the story and you're not interested in getting it right.
Agree with Jimmy Dore,
so you missed the story and you're not interested. Well, Dr. West, I wish you the best. You know I love you. You know I support
you and your precious wife and your family. You stay strong about it.
Okay, I wish you all the best. I love you. Thanks for coming on. I really do wish you all the best. And I just wish you had a clearer message to reach people, but you don't. It's muddled and it's a loser. So good luck, though.
We shall see. But if it does win, we're going to incorporate your best and show how wrong and how off the wall you were too, brother.
Wow, it's wrong. You're a loser. A loser. Jimmy's now sad.
Oh my God. Honest to God. The life force just sucked out of me.
I hope this mask story cheers you up. I hope this mask. Well, here's some good news.
And, you know, I'm glad that Bobby Kennedy got the COVID thing right. So, of course, I'm sympathetic, and I'm sympathetic to Cornel because Cornel gets the Ukraine war right, which was a super big deal. And he gets Israel-Palestine right. He gets a lot of.
Hey, Lance, sorry about the appendix. Don't be sorry. It's gone. Can't hurt me anymore. I'm lighter now. Faster. Yeah, like I said, more agile. Much like a cat. You know how cats can go through anything as long as their heads can get through? That's me now. Yeah, as long as I can fit my head through a hole, the rest of me just slithers on in. It's great. I've noticed. I can go in alleyways I wasn't fitting in previously. So the appendix was truly slowing me down. I'm better now.
Things right. So, and he has an actual chance because he's going to be in the general election. Bobby Kennedy's not. Bobby Kennedy, as we all know, is not going to be in the general election. It's just a moot point that he's running. He's running inside the Democratic Party, which is set up to stop him, which is what I told.
So by the way, Jimmy Dore, like I said, he used to have a pinned tweet by Dr. Cornel West. He has replaced his pinned tweet with a new one directly criticizing Cornel West because he's so fucking petty. And this is what everyone's been saying about Jimmy Dore for so long. I'm glad he's basically lost maybe the last person who actually took him seriously. I don't criticize Democrats because I side with Republicans. I criticize Democrats because they side with Republicans. Our fight is not left and right anymore. It is us versus them. We have two corporate parties that serve Wall Street, the war machine, corporations, and crush everyone else. Uniparty. So, cool. It is true. Both parties in the United States, in the duopoly that you have, both do serve corporate interests. That's 100% true. They do both serve the military-industrial complex. If anything, the military budget went up under Biden. You can certainly point towards that. Are they identical? No. Are you in elementary school? Can you not recognize what is going on right now? Do you not see one side decidedly moving towards Christian fascism at a barreling fucking speed run? Like, they're doing everything in their power right now. It's like, hey, women, do you like bodily autonomy? No, you don't. Trans people, do you like existing? No, you don't. That's the right now. It's very clear. There's a distinct difference. Does Joe Biden suck? Yeah, that's not hard to say. I fucking hate that piece of shit. Joe Biden is a massive piece of shit. Is he better than Donald Trump? Yeah, guess what? He is. Did you see how drone strikes internationally plummeted under Joe Biden? That's a good thing. That's less American imperialism going on around the world right now. That's a win. He's actually doing some better things for the climate. He's actually doing some better things for getting the price of fucking, negotiations between medical insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. That's good. These are little things. They're good things. That doesn't mean you need to praise him. Doesn't mean you need to suddenly join the Democrats. You don't have to be I'm with her, blue, never, like all that neoliberal bullshit. You can call them out for who they are. But to keep saying they're just the two identical parties at a time when like this is just not the case, it's elementary school fucking politics. I'm glad the majority of people don't adhere to it except for Republicans who want to hear praise from a leftist. That's who he appeals to. That's who the audience is for this shit. It's Republicans who want to see a so-called leftist all of a sudden praising Republicans and shitting on Joe Biden. If you turn to Jimmy Dore, that's what you'll get. That and a very healthy dose of anti-vax hysteria. That's what they want. It's like, hey, I want to hear how Joe Biden sucks today and how he did a shitty thing. But I don't want to hear it from yet another Fox News host. Is there an alternative to that? There is. Jimmy Dore. Go to Jimmy Dore's channel. He'll shit on Joe Biden. He will praise Trump and he'll praise Mitch McConnell, weirdly. But yeah, you get that. He's a leftist. So you get it from a leftist as well. So it'll feel better. You can get all those feelies. They're nice little feelies through the process. Get done, right? There you have it. So beautiful to see. He's very sad. We like his sadness.
The first time I interviewed him, but I guess nobody saw that interview. I told him it's a fool's errand, that he'd be better off running as a Republican, Bobby Kennedy, because they don't have super delegates to stop him. But that's exactly why there's super delegates in the Democratic Party, to stop someone like Bobby Kennedy or Cornel West or Bernie Sanders.
How quickly did your appendicitis happen? I think it's been going on for a while. I just didn't recognize what it was. I thought I had ulcers. But then one doctor later, and he kind of smiled, and then he was like, he felt my stomach, and he's like, so that's where your stomach is. I was like, okay. He's like, is that where it is? I was like, no. He's like, okay, so it's not in your stomach. Did you think you had stomach cancer or something? I was like, I kind of did. He's like, yeah. Yeah, most people they always go to cancer. He's like, so does any of this hurt? No, your stomach's fine. I was like, okay. It's like, let's move down now. All right, so now we're going to your intestines, some other things. Gonna feel your gallbladder. Does that hurt? No. Okay, your gallbladder's totally fine. Does this hurt? No. That's your liver. Your liver's fine too. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he did one of these probes where he released. And when he released, I was like, ah. And he was like, oh, because it's the release, not just the poke, but it was the release where he was like, Okay, that could be appendicitis. You could have, like, is the pain starting in kind of where your belly button is and then traveling to like the right side? And I was like, yes. And he's like, that's pretty classic appendicitis. You got to go get a CT scan. They got to make sure that it's not inflamed or about to burst. Yeah, that's how it works. So there you go for anyone who's wondering about you know, strange pains that you might have. That was my experience. Anyways, the Cornel West Jimmy Dore alliance shattered. We're all better for it. Yes, this is a good thing. Long overdue, but a good thing, obviously. And this man's fucking racist ass ego, you know, like you just the fact that immediately after being called out for just nonstop anti-vax hysteria, your first response is just to be like, look at this black person. Look at these rates of black businesses that during the lockdowns. Look how much they suffered. Don't you care about this black guy? Like, I was like, yeah. This is who Jimmy Dore is. This is who he's always been, you know? What, did it have to be trans for you to care about them? Oh, well, yeah, so he's also a transphobe. He's just checking off all the boxes right now. Like, holy shit.
Yours. We'll see who cancels who.
What happened this week, folks?
I don't know, Mike, you direct us. What should we talk about?
Well, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening on the lefty the quote unquote lefty discourse with
the discourse.
Yeah, our my good friend Timothy has stepped in a little bit of shit by stepping to a revolutionary black activist, Cornel West. And he kind of got smacked the fuck down in a very humiliating way. I reacted. I was telling everyone before this chat. I reacted to the clips earlier, just watching it, and like I filmed. I had my video prepared. I was gonna film, and then I watched that clip, and it totally fucked me up mentally. I was just so pissed. It's like, how dare you try to school Cornel West with your bullshit class reductionism? You've been LARPing as a lefty for years now, and you think that you're going to own him because he isn't like appealing to your right-wing audience. Go fuck yourself. But I mean, I can't possibly say it as well as Cornel West said it, because Cornel West was just, it was beautiful.
He destroys him in seconds. It's a masterclass.
Should we show the video?
Yeah, we gotta watch.
I haven't seen it yet. I assume this is the clip because this is the one I'm seeing going around. So this is the tab that I have.
So there's one going around, David, but it has horrible audio. So I linked you in our group chat to the full video, and it's at 15:52.
Oh, sorry. On Twitter?
Yeah, in our Twitter group chat, and it has the timestamp 15:52. That's where he starts to kind of press Cornel West. And to put this in further context, Jimmy Dore recently did an interview with RFK, and it was like this tongue bath, right? Barely pushed back, barely. But I mean, like when it comes to Cornel West, he's bringing the heat. I mean, it's such a fucking fraud. But yeah, you've got to see it.
For your insight, absolutely right, no doubt about that.
So let me just say this. So the point of running a third-party campaign is to offer an alternative to the two major parties, to bring together disaffected members of those parties, along with independents and others who feel alienated from the political system as it exists. And the best way to do this is by running on economic issues that unite us, but which neither major party is willing to address because they're both beholden to the same powerful corporate interests. The Democratic Party long ago abandoned the working class in favor of beating the drum on cultural issues, and now that's all the Democrats have to run on. So if voters are looking for a party running on trans rights and calling Donald Trump and his supporters white supremacists, they can already vote for Democrats. The role of a third party is to focus not on the identity politics that divide us, but on core economic issues that unite us along class lines, like Christian Smalls did at Staten Island. Do you think he led with LGBTQ trans rights and white supremacy, or do you think he organized along class lines? That's what we...
Okay, well, we got to pause there. What?
Yeah.
He was unionizing.
That makes it come back too. He twists this whole thing about being trans people like twice or three times. It gets so weird.
Ben, you said you want. Was he reading his statement?
Yeah, he does. Because Jimmy can't do it. He has to read it. He doesn't know anything.
It was a script. It was a script. At least he needs to get like a teleprompter going, because that was giving it that he was reading that, and it didn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's the thing is like he's trying to come at Cornel West, and he's not even prepared enough to actually look at the camera and talk directly. But he has to read from something he prepared earlier, and still managed to make himself look like an inept fool up against Cornel West. It's a fascinating moment. Fascinating.
I think that he knew that if you're going up against Cornel West, like you can't miss, right? Because Cornel West, like this is a very intelligent individual, so you need to word it perfectly. But I mean, still, it's Cornel West, so Cornel West's response here, it's coming up, is impeccable.
What we have to do, you have to organize, meet people where they are. So what is your plan to organize along class lines, or are you going to keep talking about white supremacy and all those identity politics, which are there, not from the ground up, from the top down, to make sure we stay divided? What is your plan to organize along class lines?
Well, I appreciate again the clarity and candor of what you have to say. We have profound disagreements, brother. When I organize around white supremacy, I'm not making some utilitarian calculation. I'm speaking as a Black man who comes out of a tradition that's been terrorized and traumatized by white elites. And that does not in any way mean it takes me away from class issues. Class issues are crucial. Class issues are fundamental. But it doesn't mean that I'm putting up with white supremacy. One of the problems is that you get too many folk who want to talk class, and can't say a mumbling word about white supremacy, police brutality, can't say a mumbling word hardly. Or when they do say it, you call it identity politics as if it's not connected to class. I'm hitting these head on. I'm standing with the workers when it comes to strikes. I'm standing with the workers when it comes to greedy bosses. I'm standing with the workers when it comes to obsession with profits and the needs not in any way being satisfied. But I'll never for a minute be silent. I'm not or not raising my voice in terms of vicious treatment of Black people, indigenous people, gay brothers, lesbian sisters, or trans. It's not an either or. And that's where you and I have a deep, profound disappointment. So if I see, for example, if I watch your show and I notice you hardly say a mumbling word about white supremacy because it's some kind of identity politics and I'm against it, but I don't want to talk about it. I only want to talk about what people hold in common. Well, Black people are not going to hold it in common if you don't say a word about white supremacy, but maybe some of your white friends will. So who are you talking about? You're talking about in common.
Oh my God.
Are you talking about just the majority or what, my dear brother? I will never, ever in a million years not talk about vicious legacies of white supremacy, male supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, and others. But class will always be very much at the center. What brings you and I together is what? Our fundamental solidarity with working classes, not just here, but around the world. But oftentimes when I hear about your show and you say, well, you know, these identity politics issues get in the way. No, it's not getting in the way. They're not getting in the way.
100%. They're used by so the Democrats, that's all they have to run on. And when you say that stuff,
there?
You just
the caucasity, the
caucasity of it all, Ben. The caucasity of it.
The racism's just ramping up too. He gets so much worse, so much
more. Oh my
How
God.
much more?
It gets so bad.
Yeah,
it gets so bad.
that
first time.
Yeah, and the script that he gave. It's just like watching this is I don't know where he can go from here. I don't know what he's about to say right now. But like after that read, this is the Cornel West that I love to see, the doctor. Cornel West that I love to see in his element doing what he needs to do. You know, I know that we've seen him running for president or putting his bid in, but this right here is the type of thing that this is what we need. This is it, because to be able to clear somebody who is sitting there trying to tell you and be a hypocrite about it, tell you how to speak and how to be and what he should stop doing. Dr. Cornel West will never stop speaking when it comes to Black issues, or when it comes to any other issues. Don't ever ask somebody who's been doing this to stop. It ain't happening.
He put it so well too. Someone needed to finally say, when like people always use this as an excuse, like this is identity politics, this is identitarian or whatever. To some other people, it's just civil rights. It's just existing, right? Like I hate hearing that from so-called leftists all the time, that this is about identity politics. Oh, you won't shut up about this. Well, maybe because it affects their lives every single fucking day, you know?
Well, and Jimmy also knows that he can't possibly talk about white supremacy on his channel when it's fueled and funded by right-wingers who would lose their minds. They would start calling Jimmy Dore woke. So he absolutely can't. And this is a fundamental problem. They've been trying to merge a red and brown coalition for years. They've been talking about dropping the requirement for them to get that red-brown coalition requires that we stop talking about race and identity completely. So how could we ever be in league with someone like Jimmy Dore when he's saying that our issues fundamentally don't matter to him?
Yeah. Yeah, and he's saying, keep in mind, just to kind of further contextualize all of this, he is making this class reductionist case to the literal author of a book called Race Matters. I mean, there's a reason why Cornel West has been doing this for so fucking long, because he gets it. Like, he understands how all of these things are interconnected. And so if you say, oh, you're talking about that, like you're talking to a black man. Like, it's astonishing, like the audacity of Jimmy Dore here to think that this would go well.
Caucasity.
The caucasity of Jimmy Dore.
You can say that. It's okay. You can say the caucasity.
You got the pass. You got the pass, Mike.
Yes.
That's all right.
It's so shocking. So to see Cornel West basically just drag him for minutes straight, this was so satisfying, because this is what, like, before a lot of us directly moved away from Jimmy Dore and started to attack him, we were delicately trying to communicate this to him again and again and again and again, and he just doesn't get it. And it's not like he doesn't get it. I mean, he's an idiot, but he is purposefully doing this. He avoids these issues. A couple of years ago, he posted a video about CRT and talked favorably about it, and it got massively disliked. Last week or this week, he posted a video titled "Libertarian Makes the Case for Reparations," and the like to dislike ratio is fucking wild. I posted a screenshot on my Twitter. It's like almost double the dislikes, because even if you have a libertarian pitching it, you have a right-wing audience that is gonna find that a non-starter. Like, a lot of their grievances are race-based. They feel like they've been supplanted by minorities and LGBTQ plus people, so they're not gonna, like, it's just, he's so obtuse. And really, this is about, man, Cornel West, I really want to support you, but unless you go along with what I want, what's good for my algorithm, like the vaccine and class reductionism,
and avoiding white supremacy,
and avoiding white supremacy.
Don't talk about anything true. Like, please don't bring real issues here.
And one thing that was really compelling to me is I was listening to the Vanguard a little bit as they were talking about this, and Gavin made the point that this is all intentional, because what Jimmy is trying to do is make it so that way, okay, I can't support Cornel West, somebody who, I mean, if you listen, very clearly supports all the things that Jimmy supports when it comes to policy, right? So
claims
now
he supports, by the way, we should say, like, who the fuck knows what Jimmy actually supports? But in terms of what he's pushing forward,
yeah, but basically, this is Jimmy Dore setting himself up for, oh my God, I've got to support Trump now, because see, Cornel West just doesn't get it. This is the point that Gavin made, and it's such a good point.
That's wild.
And, you know, I also think it's a bit of jealousy, because you do remember the People's Party was originally trying to run Jimmy Dore in 2024. They dropped Jimmy Dore and picked up Cornel West, who then later had to leave the People's Party because of all the allegations against the owner of that party. And then he went to the Green Party. But at the end of the day, the guy on that screen, Jimmy Dore, was supposed to be the candidate that everyone's talking about right now.
That is tea.
He lost that. Oh yeah.
So it could definitely be something. Look, Ben just dropping tea. So it could definitely be something of jealousy, envy. So let me get it. Let me get him on here with who they chose, so I can rip him to shreds and show you how he was never fit for that. And it's doing the reverse effect. It's showing more of how Jimmy Dore caters to white supremacy. He caters to that racist audience, and he tries to attack. He does attack marginalized communities. When we don't speak about the marginalized communities, all of those are the ones who are suffering, right? In these policies that he claims to support and push, but a lot of the marginalized communities are hurt the most with those. Right. So if we deduce or we take away marginalized communities are talking about that, or we say that it's identity politics or whatever the case may be, that's a disservice. And Jimmy Dore is not, he's a hypocrite. He is not who he thinks he represents. He's not that person. And that's what we need to be clear about. And that's who we need to steer away from when we're trying to get news or listen to those type of commentators, because they're going to make you go away. That is not the way that the left is supposed to be going, or who they represent. They're going to have you be more pushed towards conservative ways, pushing that white supremacist, pushing those racist views and out loud, and try to say, hey, I'm just actually thinking realistically here. You're not. You're not.
Right.
It gets so much better.
You just sound like a Democrat because that's all they have. So if
exactly
you
wrong.
need,
if the talk about the dignity of black people in the face of vicious white supremacy makes me sound like a Democrat, you got the wrong earplug.
Okay.
You're not listening clearly. Because if you can't hear the critique of Wall Street, if you can't hear the critique of militarism, if you can't hear the critique of his foreign policy in Ukraine, and all you can hear when they talk about white supremacy is identity politics, then something's wrong with your earplug.
Look at Jimmy's face, by the way.
Something's wrong. Yeah, we just have deep disagreement with that one, but
it's disappointing.
It is what it is. You are profoundly disappointing in that sense. But I still love you, brother.
I still love you too. I still love you too. I know you. I know you. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm talking about having a campaign. I'm not. There's a okay. So,
but the campaign is not about utilitarian calculation. I don't look at black people like a utilitarian.
Now this is my first time watching this, so that's why I've been sort of just taking it all in quiet. But like right there was Jimmy Dore, the gears turning in his head. Oh, sure. You could tell he still likes Cornel West, but his business model does not line up with that anymore. So he says that to placate Cornel West, while Cornel West is saying, I love you, brother, and he feels like he has to say something to Cornel West. But then there's that moment where he goes, oh, shit, how am I going to explain this to my listeners who are not going to be happy that I just said that to Cornel West?
I actually think that was his gears grinding to try to come up with a point, and he had none. Because I think underneath the surface of who Jimmy Dore is really is an empty suit that says whatever who's going to pay him the most, that's what he's going to say. So when he's actually in a debate with someone who thinks, someone who's not just a thinker, he's Dr. Cornel West. He is the most prolific thinker of our day, arguably, right? Of course, you're not going to be able to come up with a rebuttal, Jimmy Dore. You're just not that talented.
Utilitarian calculation. I can't say nothing because these people over here somehow are alienated. I'm telling the truth. I'm fighting for justice. And if people feel as if to talk about white supremacy is alienating, then they're going to be alienated. I'm talking about my mama. I'm talking about my daddy. This ain't no abstract dialogue about politics in the Machiavellian sense. Not at all,
so
my brother.
When Bernie caught...
We march together for class politics. We march together because that's real. But if you think that talking about white supremacy is just identity politics, we got deep disagreement. That's all. So I'm sorry to go on, and you're very kind to let me go.
No, go right ahead. No, go right ahead. I don't. And honest, everything I'm saying here coming from my heart. I want your campaign to succeed, and I want you to have the strongest campaign possible. But Bernie caught on because he would always, if he was given a cultural question or an identity politics question, he would always bring it back to class and economics. And it doesn't. Well, here I was talking to one of Bernie's campaign managers, and this is what he said. Yes, I personally agree white supremacy is one of the causes. But if I lose two potential allies because they roll their eyes and stop listening before I get to their concerns, I've already lost. The civil rights advancements, women's rights, the environmental movement, they didn't happen because people like my dad voted Democrat because that stuff mattered to them. It happened because Democrats appealed to them on economic issues, and a lot of the Democrats they voted for because of economics also happened to vote for that other stuff. And it doesn't work in the inverse. So I'm just giving that to you.
No, I understand. But you can see again how I disagree. Keep in mind, bro. Civil rights movement was not because of white folk doing X or Y. It was because there was a social movement led by black people in the South that was multiracial, but led primarily by black folk. And neither party would have done anything without that social movement.
100% right. You're 100% right. No doubt about it. And I think
that's my tradition. That's my tradition. How can you talk about?
No, I love to hear you talk about all that stuff. And that's good for a radical black activist who's representing his community. But I'm just trying to impress upon you that there's better ways to run a presidential campaign. And so that
The caucasity, brothers. Listen, I need you all to vouch for me for 1 second because there's a lot of white people who think I don't have white friends. And I like to consider all of you white friends.
We are his white
friends.
Yes,
we are friends.
Yes.
I love
yes, I'll use my white voice for this one. Yeah. It's true. It is true.
This is the greatest example of white supremacy and I mean, for the nerve of him to try to lecture Cornel West and then to minimize the fight for liberation to being a radical black activist, looking out for our community. No, Negro, I'm sorry, you're not even good enough to be a Negro, Jimmy Dore. I would call you what you are, but Black issues have blessed every single corner of this country, and I would argue this planet. Black Americans specifically, what we got in the Civil Rights Act blessed white women. Affirmative action blessed white women. We blessed the LGBTQ fight. So there's like literally nothing about the Black fight, the radical tradition of Black people, that's ever limited to the Black community. But he would not understand that because he himself, Jimmy Dore, is steeped in white supremacy, and it's shown right there in that clip right there.
No condescending.
I think the problem is that Jimmy Dore doesn't care much about white women either. He doesn't care about LGBTQ people. He don't care about any of that. It's clear as day.
He doesn't care about anybody.
Anybody, but his money.
Jimmy.
Yeah. And he does believe that he's above everything. I think that's his whiteness that plays a role in that, because you can't tell me Jimmy Dore stands for what everyone stands for, but cannot acknowledge marginalized communities' issues. What does he want it to look like? I'll tell you what he wants it to look. He wants it to look quite white. And that is exactly what we need to stay away from. How are people listening to this man? Ben, you've called it years ago, and they tried to tear you down. I'll never forget it. They tried to tear you down on when it was Twitter, okay? In those Twitter streets, they tried to come for you addressing this. Yeah. And so now, what do people have to say? He's outright with it. What are people going to say now?
We call this out. Jimmy Dore has been running for me. If anybody wants, he's been running for me since 2016. Right? I called him out in 2016 because he has I would give him something. At least he has finally grown a spine enough to address a Black man the way he always attacks Black women. So I called him out in 2016 for how he talks to Black women. He has been hiding from me ever since. That said, this is something that we have called out about his character. We called it out with the, what was that? Force the Vote. We knew that was a sham from the beginning, not because the idea was bad so much, but the person behind it, Jimmy Dore, who has shown us he is exactly who we said he was years ago. And I have this kind of passion about it, because he was centerpiece in the fracture that fractured the left 2 years ago. Like, we really fell apart as an online cohesive movement because of this clown. And now he has the unmitigated gall and the caucasity to try to speak to Dr. West that way. No, we're not doing that in 2024.
And also, because you brought up Force the Vote, like, this is somebody who has basically tried to draw the line when it comes to Medicare for all. Every single one of us here support Medicare for all. But then he went on to support the candidate that did not support Medicare for all in 2020. And now he supports RFK, who doesn't even support a fucking public option. And so then the government finally, for the first time in my life, experiments with free healthcare. They give us the vaccines. What does he do? He poo-poos that and says later on in this interview, that is the biggest issue of his lifetime, the vaccines. Sorry, go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say...
spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
It's so good, though. It's so good. We have to get to it.
In that discussion with RFK, he doesn't push back half as nearly as much on the healthcare topic as he is here with Cornel West about white supremacy. Like, it is a... Like, the idea that he built his career or that one of his big issues is Medicare for all, and RFK doesn't support it, and you're interviewing him and you barely push back on that, yet hear about white supremacy, this is the big issue. Like, that really gets you affected. Like, come on.
Where I draw the line.
That's the hill he's willing to die on. That's the
right.
Are we playing more?
Yeah.
You gotta see this part. No, you have to.
Is it coming soon, or should I skip ahead?
The vaccine.
Okay, scroll to where Cornel West isn't on it anymore. It's right before he gets kicked off or leaves. Right. So
he gets kicked off. Kicked off.
Sorry, he leaves. Okay.
Oh, for real.
Rewind it a little bit right before he leaves. So maybe past this because
I think we're near it actually, like 2 minutes.
Because this is when Jimmy gets especially racist. Okay. He starts like saying that he like doesn't care
because I think it's 2 minutes more.
Civil rights and
wait,
stuff.
hold on. This is where Jimmy gets especially racist.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, he ramps up. He ramps up the racism. Oh yeah. Just wait.
I haven't seen that part
for
yet.
a black radical activist, that's great. That's honey. But for someone who's trying to appeal to a wide swath of people, disaffected Republicans, independents, people, that's a death for that campaign. That's my opinion. That's just.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. But keep in mind, though, brother, that one, I've never ever said that all of the followers of Brother Trump are fascists. I said he's a neo-fascist Pied Piper. His followers, 1 out of 8 went with Bernie, 1 out of 12 went with Barack Obama. He's got a heterogeneous, diverse group. And I can speak my language of truth and justice as it connects to capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, male supremacy, transphobia, whatever it is. And there's going to be some people who listen, and there's going to be some people who don't. But this is not just a question of political calculation and Machiavellian reflection, brother. This is about the quest for truth and justice. You got to be real. You got to be authentic. I'm not listening to consultants who tell me to use this particular kind of language with this group and this kind of language with that group. That is the essence of managerial bourgeois politics.
Oh my God.
So
I just got to pause it because it's amazing how Cornel West throws that back in his face. Like how Jimmy Dore is the one where it's like, listen to the consultants, like in his mind, like the consultants that he would listen to. Whereas like Cornel West is being authentically himself.
Right.
I like, and that's what I like.
Is this? Are you playing Jimmy Dore's version of
this? This is off his site, so does it come up again?
Okay, because I didn't realize the title at first. Cornel West does 45-minute commercial for Joe.
Oh my God! I just noticed that too.
Wow! What a baby! What a baby! Holy shit!
Oh my God!
I know that they want that as clickbait. They want that to be. This is what they want, right? This is what he wants. Okay, clickbait, whatever. But coming at Cornel West like this, now we did come at Cornel West a few times when, in the last few months. You can see it on our Lay's page. We read him because we like to see him in his natural element. And this is his natural element. This is what he does. He makes sure he doesn't have to do much because he's been doing this work for so long. Jimmy Dore has been sitting here. He's I like to call these, I say other things, but this ain't that type of show. But men with microphones, these people with microphones who sit here and they will just be on the mic, and all they have is this to offer. There's nothing else. But who he's speaking to actually fought the fight. Who he's speaking to has actually walked the walk. Who he is speaking to has gone through this. He just didn't get up one day and feel like maybe I should start saying I'm for the people and get on this mic and not be for people and start promoting all things that are not helpful to the movement, but still say I'm a part of the movement. How can you trust that? So I don't know what he thought he was going to get in this moment. These are people that will bring people like Dr. Cornel West on here to try to make a moment out of it. Get this viral clip about how he got one of the most influential people who speak on the behalf of marginalized people, and he made him fumble in his work, where what we saw here was somebody who is going to stand right beside his word. He's going to stick right beside it. He's unmoved because this is what he believes and this is what he does. Jimmy Dore, on the other hand, we saw him get stuck. We saw him not know how to respond. And that's how you know these people aren't real. Jimmy Dore is not real. He's not a real person. He really does not care about issues. So I don't know what he thought he was going to get out of this, but what's happening right now, what we're doing right now is just showing we are laying down, going through, breaking down who he really is for those people who can't see it.
Jimmy Dore's the guy who that lady saw in the back of the plane. That motherfucker is not real.
No, she saw something. She saw something, y'all. She did.
So this does apparently go on for another 20 minutes. We can't watch 20 minutes of this, right? So
yeah, jump ahead about 15 maybe.
I guess around here is when he jumps off, it looks like. And Cornel West does not look happy.
It's gonna be when Cornel starts ranting about how Jimmy only cares about vaccines and other nonsense.
Yeah.
He just rips him fucking apart.
All right, let's try this.
injectable treatments be mandated or coerced. Individuals should be allowed to protect and heal themselves in a manner that best supports their medical spiritual beliefs. So I just wanted I understand why you aren't outraged by that. Do you share the sentiment of the Black Caucus of the Green Party, and have you talked to them?
Well, one thing, it's good to have a Green Party where you have a variety of different voices that are clashing, and the tensions are very real. I think there's no doubt that the pharmaceutical company has played a disproportionate role in shaping public policy. I think the kind of concerns that you and RFK Jr. and others have certainly are well grounded in that sense. On the other hand, we know there's been a whole host of vaccines in regard to other kinds of illnesses that are much more effective. The question becomes making sure, and one of the things I want to do, I want to have a truth commission to find out exactly what was the level of corruption that took place during these years, be able to see not just the text, we know the books are out there, but to have a truth commission so that we can see what voices were marginalized, what voices were pushed aside, and make sure it never happens again. I resonate with the spirit of what my Green Black brothers and sisters are saying, but the Green Party itself does allow this kind of disagreement and so on. But I'll say this though, brother, I know I got to go, but I must say, see, this is where you and I do in some ways live in different worlds, because as crucial and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years, in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through, 63% of them are living paycheck to paycheck, in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth, yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black Caucus. But when I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind. It just doesn't. That's the kind of world we live in, brother.
Okay.
Maybe I spend,
Well, here it is. The Black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. Do you care yet?
Well, no,
70,000 workers in one state were fired because of vaccine mandates. When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it was not the most fundamental issue in my lifetime the last 30 years.
Forced medical experiments? Forced medical experiments that the scheme.
Where is the nuance?
Oh my God.
Where is the complexity?
So you missed this story and you're not interested in getting it right.
You agree with Jimmy Dore.
So you missed this story and you're not interested. Well, Dr. West, I wish you the best. You know I love you. You know I support
you and your precious wife and your family. Stay strong, though, brother.
Okay, I wish you all the best. I love you. Thanks for coming on. I really do wish you all the best. And I just wish you had a clearer message to reach people, but you don't. It's muddled and it's a loser.
Fuck you.
That's where he cuts it.
What do we call this?
I support you so much, Dr. West, that I'm going to have the last thing that's said at the end of this 45-minute interview is calling your campaign a loser. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Listen, I've already said exactly what this is, but I love Dr. West as a brother, as a mentor. I don't wish anything but the best for Dr. West. But I hope that this is very clear to him. We've been trying to put Dr. West up on who Jimmy Dore is for some time. And I hope that this interview really solidifies very clearly, not only in his mind, but the mind of everyone who has ever had any question about whether or not Jimmy Dore is leftist. He is not. He's a conservative. Whether or not Jimmy Dore is a part of as an ally, no, he is an enemy of progressivism. He is an enemy of the LGBTQIA community. He is the enemy of the Black community. And he is supported by those people who have targeted every single one of us, y'all. His audience is made up by people who would see every one of us on this screen put on the wall. And so, not to make such a big deal about it, but I think this is the apex of his arrogance. And I hope everyone can really clearly see it now, but maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. That's the thing. We would hope that people would see it. This is not the first time that I've heard of a Jimmy Dore rant issue, him being in a, political scandal, like as a commentator, whatever. This is not the first time, but people still back these type of people. I know another person who's an activist in the space that is literally a red flag, a walking red flag, and people will still like stick right beside them, continue to fund them so that they can grow. And it's just crazy to me how people just don't see that, how this is damaging, how damaging this is. And this person is spreading misinformation. This ain't it. This ain't it.
Yeah, forced medical experimentation. And I love how, like, when Cornel West said, yeah, I would set up a truth commission, because of course, like, there's no harm in that, because there's nothing to hide. Jimmy Dore's like, yes, that's going to expose all this, because Jimmy Dore, basically, he got so much growth on his channel by doing anti-vaccine misinformation. This is like the go-to issue. And he's still, even though the vaccine stuff has kind of like, it's not as popular, people have kind of moved on, he's still trying to play the greatest hits, because that was like peak Jimmy Dore views a couple of years ago. So that's why this is his #1 issue, because a lot of his audience came to him at that time, a lot of right-wingers, right? So pushing vaccine misinformation is just like, if that's not your number one issue for Jimmy Dore, he can't support you. Unfortunately, he's going to have to support Trump or DeSantis.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Or DeSantis.
Yeah, but like, how condescending do you have to be to tell someone who's had their entire life involved in civil rights and activism to be like, well, do you not care about black businesses? Huh? Does this not concern you?
Right.
Like,
that's what really blew me. Like, that moment was the most, like, wow, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's what he does. He tries to flip it. So that way, if he doesn't have somebody, like, he'll bring on somebody to legitimize these types of messages of like hate against these communities. Like, for example, like I've talked about before, how during the Steven Crowder, Carlos Maza situation, when Steven Crowder was explicitly homophobic, Jimmy Dore personally gave me a call when we were still on good terms. And he was like, what do you feel about this? I'm like, yeah, well, Steven Crowder is homophobic and it needs to be denounced. I get that you're against like him being deplatformed, but you need to be able to explicitly and clearly denounce the homophobia. And then he sent me an email a couple days after that, showing me something that Glenn Greenwald had said, where Glenn was like, oh, no, this is Steven Crowder punching down on the little guy with his homophobia. You know what I mean? And so then Jimmy was like, oh, okay, well, I don't need your opinion. And so I thought that he was like reaching out in good faith to try to get the perspective of a gay dude, when in actuality, he just wanted me to affirm his pre-existing bigotry. Right. And so what he's trying to do is make Cornel West seem like, oh, see, if you're not going to parrot what I'm saying, then I'm going to paint you as the villain. You're actually against black people if you're not going to legitimize what I'm saying. And that's why he brought up that article. And it's ridiculous. I mean, he's done this multiple times, and people need to see that this is the tactic. It's the GOP Fox News playbook, right? And he's done it again and again. And if you think he's a leftist, then I don't know what to say at this point.
No one can think that at this point. I can't.
There can't be many.
People do. And there are people who are like him who claim that they're. I see this more and more often through the years too. The last couple of years, where a lot of people who used to be called leftists, and it used to be more of a general understanding. Hey, look, marginalized communities, fine, okay. Now people are like, yeah, no, now you guys are doing too much. You're trying to title things. But they're the ones that are calling this identity politics. They don't want us to actually get specific and actually talk about who's being targeted, why they're being targeted, why it's problematic, who's not receiving care, or what the real issues that are going on. And it usually be white people. I don't understand why. Why? You say that you're an ally. How can you be an ally in this manner? How?
There's no war but class war. No war but class war. Come on. We have to do the one thing I want. Like,
here's the funny thing though about that last article he brought up to like end it. Number one, what happened to businesses during the pandemic had nothing to do with the vaccine. In fact, the vaccine helped get people back to work and help things reopen. So that goes flies right into his face as well. But then on top of that, that article is actually Jimmy Dore playing into identity politics, because his whole shtick was it's all about the working class, right? Well, last time I checked, the small business owner class isn't exactly the working class. I mean, are there some people who have solidarity with the working class in that who own small businesses? Sure, but we also know there's a lot of small business bourgeoisie type owners who flew down on a private plane to January 6th. So the idea that Mr. Jimmy Dore, all the class, chimes in at the end there with, but what about black small business owners? Is so just chef's kiss.
Really.
Really.
About that, Cornel West.
That was that was an elegant catch there, Matt. That was because honestly, that shows that he is willing to pivot on the very core issue that he claims to be standing on. You see him flip on it on a dime just to get a cheap political advantage that you just exposed. Brilliant.
Yeah,
just come out already. He needs to just come out already. You are not as liberal or lefty or whatever as you know. You're not that. Come out. Come out the closet, baby. Put the hood on. It's time.
I was gonna say the "Make America Great Again" hat on.
No, baby, put the hood on. It's time.
No, who's good in the hood? That's way better.
Yeah. Once he gives that up, though, then he doesn't have his angle, right? Like, I feel like once Dave Rubin claimed or finally admitted he was conservative, he lost a lot of his edge and a lot of his support, a lot of his viewership, because then he
became irrelevant.
Yeah, it's just
Jimmy Dore's entire channel. His whole thing exists for right wingers to say, "Look, a leftist is saying it too."
Exactly.
That's the whole channel. That's it.
Yep.
And that pays well, folks.
Okay, it pays, baby. We talked about this. It pays to have right-wing talking points. It pays to be a black person like Candace Owens, to shift, pivot, right up into the white supremacy talking points as a black person and say, look, this, and they're gonna say, look, she's black. Right, and Jimmy Dore is a person that he still considers himself like a leftist. And they will go and this is what they do. But it pays. Listen, it pays to sell your soul.
Did y'all see Dave Rubin interviewing Ron DeSantis? And I'm like, do you realize you can't even tell him that you're gay without getting arrested in Florida? Like, it was the most hilarious and embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
And I love that you brought that up because it's so funny. So after Ron DeSantis released his homophobic ad, basically Trump supporters were trying to get him by showing the picture that Dave Rubin posted that Ron DeSantis had sent. Ron DeSantis sent onesies to Dave Rubin and his husband for the babies that said future DeSantis voters. And Trump supporters were using that as a gotcha to DeSantis. Like, see, he supports the gays too. It's fucking hilarious to me. It's so funny. Yeah.
Before we get off this Jimmy Dore thing, I just got to share. So
I gotta go. I said I'd only be here for half an hour.
You take care, get some rest.
You're all too much fun. It's too much fun to hang out with all of y'all. And one last thing, Ben, if anyone accuses you of that, I'd be honored to be your white friend. If you need one, just one.
Same.
I've got at least 4 white friends. Man.
Yeah,
Nice.
We've got you.
All right, see you.
And Lance is a light-skinned white. He yeah. So then if they ever ask, you got Lance.
Hey, how are you light-skinned white? Like
I said it's a thing. It's a thing.
I should mention he is part indigenous as well, so he's not,
you can see it in different features. You can see it in different features, but not in the skin color.
I wanted to share this though. So this is the media bias chart. This company puts this out every year. There were last I saw, they had millions of dollars pumped into this company. Here's Jimmy Dore on the far left. If you look, my mouse isn't showing up, but if you look on the far left, he's between two others.
Right next to the respectable Palmer report, and just under the also respectable, what was that? Oh,
Black
no,
Agenda
Black
Report?
Agenda Report.
They put him with the Black Agenda Report.
Yeah, this is how.
I actually misread. I thought there was
insane.
I thought that was that other the Jimmy Dore fan. I misread who
those
that was.
people.
I thought that,
No, they're not on here. I don't think.
Whatever. Yeah,
they're not big enough. But yeah, it's just I will give them some credit for getting Tim Pool correct. They have Timcast IRL here on the far right and the misleading far right. So he's someone who pretends he's centrist. So at least they got that accurate. But it's the idea that this company paid millions of dollars to make this chart and put Jimmy Dore on the far left is just.
They actually spent money doing this.
Oh yeah, no, this is like
they got money. These guys are funded. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Why do they have IGN on this? They have IGN.
I don't know why IGN's on there for some reason. Really bizarre.
What is vaccine.news on the far right? That one just scares me. I don't want to. Like, oh God, the fuck is that? I don't want to know.
There.
No. Wow, this is really bad.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Laminia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.